Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk to you about how to create a Cardano stake pool. So first off, I've talked about Cardano in some previous videos. I've lived here in East Africa for about 10 years and I really appreciate the focus that Cardano has for the future of Africa. Having lived here, I see the opportunity of all the fintech space that could happen here, financial inclusion, basically opening up the world economy to this part of the world. And Cardano is a great project. So that's why I'm involved with Cardano as a passive income opportunity. I run a Cardano stake pool called ANCH, Anchor of Hope Pool. And this stake pool is kind of small and getting started right now. So I'd really appreciate it if you would go and stake your Cardano with my pool so we can help that decentralization and really get things up and running. So let me tell you about how you can go about starting a Cardano stake pool. So first thing, a stake pool is something that is operated on a server or some kind of computing machine. Now you could really do this with just a cheap, like a Raspberry Pi or something like that. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible for you to do that. Why I would say I wouldn't recommend it is this is kind of a semi-professional thing that you want. You need to have the system up and running all the time, basically. The more the system is up and running, the more Cardano you're going to be minting or creating blocks, essentially. So I recommend that you actually put this on a professional server. But again, if you really just want to try it out and you have a machine at home, you can do that. I would start with a standard Linux server. You know, there's a lot of these cloud providers that have options for different servers in Linux. So you could do your standard Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Azure. There's lots of the big providers out there that offer this type of service. Now, these guys are good and they have the best uptime, probably the best availability, but they can be quite expensive. So if you're on a budget, which I would recommend doing this kind of on a budget, because at the end of the day, you're trying to make money. There's some other providers, cheap providers like these Hetzner's, Contabo guys in Europe that have fairly cheap servers. That's a pretty good option because this isn't like a life-saving application. It's something, if you have a little downtime, it's sort of okay, but the more you're up, the more your stake, people who give you stake are going to trust you, and the more, just reliability that you're going to have. And you kind of need that, but it doesn't have to be like 100%, 99.99% is probably okay. So what you need to do is you need to be able to set up Linux servers, and that's where you need to have a pretty good technical knowledge. Myself, I'm the CTO of a fairly decent sized startup in East Africa. Our app has about 1 million downloads on the Play Store. I don't claim to be the most genius technical guy out there. Hire a lot of people that know more from a technology standpoint than I do, but you do need to know your way around managing servers and how to handle these things. Particularly in Linux, you need to be able to know how to set up these servers, how to keep them secure, and all of that type of stuff. So it does take a little basic technical knowledge. This isn't something that you're just going to jump into. So if you don't know a lot about administering Linux servers, I would say that would be the place to start. Spend a few weeks doing that, learning that, how to do it really well, because you're going to need that knowledge to be able to do this efficiently. You will start with one server, which is called your block producing server, that you call it a node essentially. And this is what creates your blocks for you. So people will take their Cardano and they will stake that Cardano with your stake pool. And once you get enough Cardano on the stake pool, you will start minting blocks every epoch, which is happens every few days. And the more your server's up and running and the more stake you get onto your pool, the more you will be creating and making for yourself as a stake pool operator. So I would just say that you don't just want to have the one server though. The recommended architecture is to go with 3 servers. Now, what does that mean? When you have 3 servers, you're going to have the block producing node, but you're also going to have something called relay nodes. Now, why do you need this? It's not necessary, but it's a security measure. You don't want to have attackers be able to access your server directly, your block producing node directly. So you put these relay nodes in front of them. And why you have 2 relay nodes is mainly for reliability. So if one relay node goes down, you at least have the other one up and running at all times. So that's why it's nice to have this 3 server architecture. Now this costs a little bit more. You could do it without it, but I wouldn't recommend it. For my pool, I've seen a lot of the financial crimes that have happened across the world. even somebody will steal your wallet for $20. So when you have millions of Cardano at stake on your server, don't you think that somebody would come and try to steal that? Of course they would. When there's millions of dollars at stake, they're going to come after the money. So you need to keep your server extremely secure. And having these relay nodes is one of the most important protection measures that you can have, because it puts a block in between somebody accessing your block producing node directly. You can lock up various IP ports and make sure that traffic can't just, nobody can get traffic directly into your server. So that's where I would recommend having these relay nodes. Now, have that being said, one of the biggest security things that you can do on your system is you can use an air-gapped computer for all your secret keys. Now, this is quite critical. What is an air-gapped computer? Well, an air-gapped computer is a machine that is never connected to the internet in any form or fashion. Basically, you get a computer, you put it in airplane mode, you tape up the Ethernet port, you make sure that nobody ever gets it onto the network. This will protect yourself in that a hacker, they can't get to that computer ever. There's no way for them to access it because it's not on the internet. So for them to steal your keys, and what that means by stealing your keys is that they could get your keys and they could transfer all the money out of your stake pool. You don't want that to happen, right? So you will protect those keys on the air-gapped computer, and they would basically have to break into your home and steal your computer. And if you have your keys properly encrypted on your computer, they're going to have to, break that encryption to get your keys. So it's a much more secure process, and you just can't have hackers across the world getting at your keys. So I really recommend using that process. So in terms of your setup, you'll also need to think about having an old air-gapped computer, but that can be something very small. Doesn't have to be a big machine, just something cheap that will never be connected to the network. Now, to get started, you have to put up 500 ADA to start your stake pool. Now, at the current price, I haven't checked it recently, but let's say it's at going around 35 cents, something like that. It could be a couple of $100s for you to set this up. But the price of Cardano has been up as high as $3 almost, so that could be $1,500 just to get started. So now's a good time to jump in. You pay this fee just to show you have some skin in the game, and you can get that fee back once you ever shut down your pool. So it's money that you keep, but it's locked up while the pool is running, and it's just to show that you're in it to win it, basically. Now, also, when you run the stake pool, you also will put something called a pledge. And what is the pledge? Well, the pledge is something that also shows that you're serious to people that want to stake money with you. I mean, imagine, if I've got a lot of financial stake, it's much easier for you to trust me if I have, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 versus if I have $2, in my stake pool. So it's like the stake pool operator putting up their own money to say, I believe in the stake pool. I know it'll make this good passive income for all of us. Now come stake with me. Right now, I could afford to do close to 40,000 ADA. Isn't very large, really. Really, before you start making money, you need to get about 1 million ADA dedicated to your stake pool. So that's why I do these type of videos for educational purposes and to help you with some tips. And then that way you can go and donate and stake your ADA with my stake pool, which also benefits nonprofit causes here in East Africa, and is both good and charitable, and also helps us to grow this ecosystem. So you put the pledge in. The higher the pledge, the more blocks you're going to mint in every epoch. That's important because you want to be minting more blocks. You want to be getting higher returns. Ideally, what I would be shooting for with this is, when you stake your ADA on my stake pool, you'd get about a 5% return, let's say. That would be a good goal to shoot for. As the stake pool operator, obviously you can make quite a bit more, and that's one of the reasons that I do this. Of course, you're paying for the servers. You have to pay for 3 servers, air-gapped computer, run that every month. I mean, it's not a cheap thing, but it is kind of a passive income. This is something that you would do if you have another job, because once you get the server set up, it doesn't really require a lot of maintenance, maybe a couple hours a week at most. So this is something that you would do when you have another job, and it allows you to get passive income. Every time you're minting blocks, you're getting a reward for that. You're getting a percentage of all the money that's staked on your stake pool. So really, if the price of ADA starts going up, this could be quite a lucrative passive income opportunity. So that's just for you to be thinking about. Right now it's kind of risky. The market's down. Profits aren't very high. This isn't financial advice to tell you to start a stake pool. I'd say right now, staking with my stake pool, that could be sufficient for you. Try it out. Try to get some of those percentage rewards and help to grow while I go on this journey with you, and I can do these videos to show you how to set up your pool and the things you need to be watching out for. And then when you're ready and you have the Linux knowledge, you have the comfort, then you can go and set up your own stake pool. But I believe with Cardano's overall vision, this is going to be a great thing. Now, I think another question before I end the video is like, what type of servers do you need? How big do they need to be? One thing is that the ledger keeps growing, right? As you add more and more transactions to the ledger, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I would suggest quite a big hard drive, probably 100 gigabyte SSD minimum, as you're getting started. I guess storage is kind of cheaper now, so maybe that's not such a big thing. I would say you want to go with 16 GB RAM, 32 if you can do it. But there's this balance of you want to make your servers as cheap as possible, but also as the ecosystem is growing and more is being built into it, it tends to require more and more memory. So you want to be balancing that out. So I would go with what the cheapest thing that you can get. Maybe start out small. Start out with like 16 GB. Maybe a smaller hard drive. Grow as you expand and learn more about it. But I do recommend starting with those 3 servers plus the air-gapped computer. Going with the cheapest cloud provider you can find. If you want to be super secure, you can go with AWS or Azure or something like that. But you need to make those decisions as you're running this, because at the end of the day, this is what you're trying to do for income. And like I mentioned, you have to have 1 million ADA to really start making money. So the other thing you have to do is you have to do what I'm doing here, advertise, support, and try to promote your stake pool. So that's it for now. Next time I'll be talking to you about the details of how you go in to physically set these things up and get you more tips on how to get up and running.